At your NaCCRA Executive Board, with the urging of our founders and our unofficial Executive Director, Charlie Paulk, has been anxious to take NaCCRA to the next level in development, scope, and in our purpose. We were founded as an organization in 1997, so we're really still a fledgling organization. And much has been accomplished since that time, and we are a 501c3, so we have that tax-exempt privilege. We boast about 1,000 members, and we're so delighted to be inching up to 1,000, but there are something in excess of 82,000 residents of CCRCs throughout the United States. So we know we got a long way to go, and now we need to kind of map a strategy to try to get us there. We boast 10 or 9 state organizations, 34 community associations throughout the United States, and individual members, but there's so much work to be done at the next level. We know what our ultimate goal is, but now we have to reach the how-to. How do we go about doing this? And so we really need to use your best thinking as well. And to this end, I have asked my very good friend Billie Alban, who is from Connecticut, from Seabury CCRC, to lead us through an exercise or so that is designed to help us all to take a good hard look at ourselves, at our communities, at our nation and our world, and look at it from all angles. And then together, assist us as we plot a strategy to build our future together for NaCCRA. Billie is former president of CONCRA, very skilled in the dynamics of organizational development. She teaches executive development programs at Columbia, and her consultant work has centered on organizational change all throughout the world. She's written extensively, authored an article entitled, "Let Our People Take You Higher." We have asked Billie to come and help us to take us higher as we go on.
Hi there, everybody.
Hi, Billie.
I just met someone who lived, he and his wife lived for a while in a town that I spent a long time in Ecuador.
Oh, for goodness sake.
Isn't that amazing? You never know what the connections are. Right. And in fact, he's going to help us here in a few seconds. I just want to say, in terms of Ecuador, there's a wonderful expression. I sat in on the board meeting last night and I thought, God, these people are so smart. And there's an expression in Spanish. It isn't that the devil is so smart, it's that he's been around for a long time. So that's us. We've been around for a long time and it makes us very smart. I don't know if you've seen the article, there was one in The Economist on the wisdom of the older people. Okay, here we go. I'm going to call on your wisdom here. Let me tell you what we're going to do. I want you to step outside. All of you bring problems and issues and how can we do this and how can we do that. And I heard a lot of that last night. I want you to step outside of that and look out and tell me what you see out there. So now can I have my two scribes, Jean and George, is it? Yeah. Yes, come forth. They're going to help me. And I would be happy if you could stand up and do this. So here's what I want you to do. I've put CCRCs here, given your mission statement, your purpose statement, CCRCs across the USA. I'm going to ask you, as you look out, to tell me, so just call it out, they're going to catch it, first one, and then somebody else has another one, and they're going to do what's called a spider diagram or a mind map. So you call out something, a trend that you see in the larger environment that is going to impact or is already impacting CCRCs across the country. What are some of the trends you see in the environment? Maybe some haven't hit us yet. Question?
Baby boomers.
Baby boomers. Okay, let's get it. An arrow down. How about another one?
Home health care.
Okay, home health care. Now I'm going to ask a couple of things and draw the arrow down to the CCRCs because that's where it's impacting. Tell me why baby boomers, what's the impact?
Demographics, older people.
Yeah. They're what?
A lot of older people.
A lot of older people. Let's put that as, is it okay if I put it as a twig on that branch?
Sure.
Okay, older people. Smart older people too, I think, right? Like us. Okay. How about, what's the other one? Home health. Tell me why that's important. What's happening there?
People will be not be coming to.
Okay, can affect membership?
Aging
Yeah,
in
can
place.
affect CCRCs.
Right.
Let's put it there as a twig. Home health of people staying at home.
Aging in place.
Real estate market.
Okay, tell me more about that. That's another branch. Gene, can you get it? The real estate market. Why is that an issue?
Having trouble selling homes.
Yes, okay, let's put that as a twig. Having trouble selling homes. Absolutely, you can't move into a CCRC till you sell your home. I saw an ad yesterday by one of the CCRCs that said, we'll help you sell your home. Right? Covenant Village, I think it was. Yes, you have one.
Living longer.
Living longer, okay? Now, what's the impact on that? Someone give me a twig on that branch, can you?
More health needs.
Huh? More health needs, what was it? Yeah, more health needs, anything else?
Cost.
Cost.
What?
Economics. Cost.
Cost. Increased cost? Okay. Let's get that. Increased cost.
Someone
Okay.
mentioned socialization as well.
Say that again?
Socialization. How do they socialize it? Older and older groups mixing with the younger.
Okay, put down socialization. How about some more?
Money running out.
Say more. Money running out. Say more. Let's have another branch here about money. Well, go ahead, you do it, George. Let's have another branch about money. Write down and then connect it with the thing. What do you mean by money running out?
Well, the older you live, the more likely it would be that you might outlast your retirement.
Okay, outliving your resources. Okay, how about some more? Come on.
Attracting younger people.
Is that a trend?
No, it's a problem.
Oh, a problem. The need to attract
As people
younger
live
people.
longer, how do
Okay.
you attract the younger people?
And you think that's a trend that's starting to occur? Yes? I hope so.
Yeah.
Okay. Should that be connected to baby boomers?
Yes.
I think so.
Okay, draw a little arrow between that and where's the baby boomer one? Yeah, just draw a little, 2 arrows here between the baby boomer and that last one. Where's the last one?
What's the last one?
What was the last one? People living no.
Running out of funds.
Attracting.
Attracting younger
Yeah,
people.
attracting, and then draw a little line between the two with 2 arrows. Okay. Some more. What other trends do you see out there?
Retrofitted.
What does that mean?
That means that some of the
Structures.
buildings were built some time ago, and the
Okay.
current generation doesn't want landlines, and they don't want anything other than Wi-Fi and
Okay.
iPads and whatever.
So how could we say that a little more as a branch?
Desire for modern technology.
Well, that's another one, but come on with this one. Need to adapt? Is this right? Need to adapt CCRCs?
Retrofitting to make today.
Retrofitting, okay, put retrofitting there.
Physical
Upgrading.
plant.
Huh?
Upgrade.
And upgrading as a twig, maybe, on the retrofitting. Upgrading, upgrading the facilities. Okay, now someone had one here.
Yeah, well, that is the same thing, is
Okay.
adapting modern technology.
Increasing costs, yes. What, increasing costs, yes. Okay, increasing operating costs for CCRCs. That's another trend that's already happening. How about some more trends, all you smart people? Yes,
Let me add to the baby boomer idea.
yes. On the baby boomer branch, you want to put a twig?
They will tend to be much more aggressive and engaged.
Okay.
If you follow some of the trends, in particularly the nonprofit sector, those people who serve on boards and committees who are what we would call baby boomers, they're not very patient.
No,
They
good.
want
Okay, I think we got it. So baby boomers on that branch, let's put a twig, more assertive. More assertive population. Yes.
They want to change the dress code.
Okay, that's a trend. Or is it a baby boomer thing?
It's pressure between the existing and the newcomers coming in with the younger people. They want to wear jeans when they want to wear jeans.
Okay,
That's all their designer
it's a trend.
Right.
Changes in the dress code, right. Okay, how about some more? Yes, Joe.
Runaway healthcare costs.
Okay.
Healthcare reform.
All right, runaway healthcare costs, and what did you say?
And healthcare reform.
And healthcare reforms, that's a big branch, runaway healthcare costs.
Well, fees for service, that's another big issue.
Fees for service, that's another trend, let's put that down, separate trend. Fees for service.
Global warming.
Global warming, how does that affect CCRCs?
Well, for those in northern climates, it might reduce snow removal costs.
Oh, that's a great thing. This happened this year in Connecticut.
It might increase air conditioning costs.
Yes, okay. So let's get that, global warming and the impact on the economics, plus or minus. These trends don't have to be negative or positive, they can be both, and they can, you know, we can have some positive trends. Who said technology before? I'm not sure we captured it.
Yeah.
How do you see that impacting CCRCs?
Well, the computer technology, the new people coming in are going to be very computer
Yes.
oriented, cell phone oriented, and that sort of thing, and the CCRCs have to be available to handle that.
To adapt to that, to adapt to the technology. Anything else in technology that,
Yeah, I'll add to that.
yes, add to that, John.
The CCRC industry has lagged in the deployment of technology to lower costs and to provide services to residents compared to, say, the financial services industry that has an equal need for privacy and an equal need for reliability is way ahead.
Yeah, so the technology for CCRCs is behind. Anything else in technology, Joe, in terms of healthcare?
Healthcare monitoring.
Healthcare monitoring, get that on the branch. That's a big trend now, the healthcare monitoring through technology.
In a way, related to technology, I
Yes.
think corporations and many educational institutions are way ahead of CCRCs in terms of energy conservation as a means of reducing costs.
Yeah.
How about prejudices? We're all old and unable to look after ourselves.
And that's a prejudice, and that's clearly a trend, a kind of paternalistic approach to people in CCRCs, isn't it? You got it, George? Okay. All right, how about some more trends?
Local community problems affecting the CCRC.
Let me ask this,
Economic problems.
because you raised something that was very interesting, and actually someone's going to talk about it at our state meeting, which is taxes, local taxes.
Pilots.
Huh?
Pilots.
Yeah. The local issues impacting CCRCs, the need to, we were once, what were we on the list, Joe, do you remember, on the list of grant?
I'm sorry?
For Seabury, we were way down on the list of contributors to the town, now we're among the top 3.
Yeah,
And-
yeah, the discussion with the town as to how much of your property is taxable and non-taxable, because, you know, we're a not-for-profit, and we take care of religious people, among others.
We tried to do that, and we still are going to have to tax Bill. But I just heard from someone in Connecticut who's in a for-profit, a 75% increase in the town tax on the yes.
Have you heard of pilots, payment in lieu of taxes?
Yes, we have that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other trends you see, think of big, out there in the environment, other trends?
What is that pilot payment? What is that?
You want to say what the pilot payment is?
Well, towns and counties mostly, for example, we use the fire department about 3 times a week to come for 911. We don't pay a cent. And they're saying, couldn't you help us a little bit?
Yeah.
So that's a payment in lieu of the tax.
That's right, payment in lieu of taxes. Right. Yes.
Expertise of leadership. As we look into the future,
Oh, good one.
the leadership, both at the operations level and the governance level, will need to have greater expertise. As we face more complexity and more issues, that somehow that training has to translate and connect with all this change we're talking
Okay,
about.
let me ask you something. Is this a trend or is this a wish?
I think it's going to have to be a trend.
Okay, but
At the moment, it may be a wish.
yeah, I kind of think it's a wish. I think a lot of areas we have wishes like this, but I think it's more a wish. I
Well,
hope.
the trend is toward financial failure of CCRCs due to lack of business
Okay.
wisdom by providers.
Let's get that down. That's an important trend. George, can you capture that? Right here. Huh?
What do we call it?
Say it again.
Financial
Right.
failure?
Financial failures of CCRCs due to lack of business judgment by
Look at it
providers.
as a twig. Financial failure of CCRCs due to failure in business.
If you want to make that one of your spider things, it's a lack, what he's talking about is the lack of business judgment by the providers.
Okay, lack of business judgment, by the provider, and then have that coming right in here, the arrow to the CCRCs impacting us.
You know,
Yes.
another one is going back,
Volunteerism.
community
Expanding
services.
volunteerism.
Well, that's a wish.
We do it here and
You do?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Expanding volunteerism, you see as a trend?
Yeah,
Into the community.
Put it down.
back.
Put it down.
I was going to say community service, providing community services. We provide 5% of our budget to
Good.
outreach in the community.
Good. So there's a trend to provide community service and volunteer for, people do stuff in schools. Yes.
It's what they're calling social accountability.
What's the trend?
That's what we're talking about.
Okay. Social accountability. Let's get that.
I got it.
Seniors are becoming more informed purchasers of services, including continuing care.
So did you hear that? Seniors are becoming more
Informed
purchasers around
of healthcare services.
of healthcare services.
Including continuing care.
Care is one of them. We're becoming more informed. Yes.
The trend, I don't know how you say this, the trend away from type A communities toward type C. I guess the trend to put the risk on the resident instead of the provider. The
Yeah.
trend is to move the risk to the resident and away from the provider.
Yeah. Shift risk. Good. Shift risk from resident to provider, from provider to resident.
Yeah.
Shift risk to resident. That's good. Okay, and and I think the way that's happening, if I'm right, Jack, is, just cross right across here and get it down here. Pull it over there, and draw an arrow over here. I think that's a major thing. Good.
It is.
Yeah, the shift to the risk.
And then,
Good.
Billy, with that is the conflict, increasing conflict between the providers and the residents.
Okay, that's another trend. I think this could maybe go up here, conflict between residents and providers. I just talked to a friend in California who talked to me about that.
Billy?
Yes.
I'd like to go more positive. Cooperation.
Well, let's put that too, because I think hopefully there's both.
Slash cooperation.
Joe, you had one, somebody had one here.
She does. She's
Yes.
more political clout. Elders with more political clout.
Is that a wish or you think we have it?
I think it's a trend.
Okay.
And with that, I would put learning in retirement.
Okay?
Continuing education in
Oh,
retirement.
yeah, lifelong learning, yeah.
Lifelong learning, okay. More political clout. And of course, we are the people who vote, right?
Right.
Okay. Are we trended out? We're still a few more trends here?
The trend at our place is new residents are coming in based on their research and their visits to multiple communities. They're not coming because their friends are there or from word of mouth. And so the marketing people are having to really deal with a different population of prospects.
I bet you is people are coming in with much more education about CCRCs, not just because their friends live there.
Educated consumers.
Educated consumers, is that okay? Yes.
I think that is a corollary of something. We have this shifting risk and we have that. There's a divergence in the character of CCRCs in their commitment toward residents. And along with that is for some CCRCs, there's been an escalation in the compensation packages of the executives paid for by but not in all communities. So I think there's a divergence between the best communities like Deerfield
Yeah.
and rogue communities.
Okay, let's put, there's a difference between
So
best communities and rogue
increasing
communities.
divergence.
A divergence between communities. Yep, can you get it, Jean, divergence between, I think you could come right in here. Put something right here, how about that? I'm gonna call this to a halt in a few seconds, so if you have burning trends, let's get them.
There's a lower standard of health requirements.
Yeah, a lower standard of health requirements for entry. Yes, that's an important one, George. Lower standards of health requirements for entry.
This is a question about a trend, and that is whether there is less influence of religious affiliation with regard to going to CCRCs.
I don't know. My research wouldn't necessarily support that. It would support location. Still, location where friends and family are, but I don't know. I have no idea.
Talk about environmental concerns.
Yes, isn't there something up here about climate warming? Yeah, that's there. Yes.
I'm not sure if it's there in some form, but there seems to be a relationship developing between existing CCRCs and the neighborhood equivalent, where neighbors come together in the city and do many things.
Yes.
There is developing relationships with local CCRCs, for example, for health care.
Is it they start their own system or they?
They develop a neighborhood care program.
Yes.
Where within a certain area.
Yeah.
They then are beginning to make a relationship with a local CCRC to give them services that they cannot develop in the neighborhood.
Okay.
Without walls.
Well, it's
different approach from
CCRC without walls, but there's also another trend that you may be referring to, one that started, I believe, in Massachusetts.
The village. It's called Village.
Village. That's another trend, is the village. I've seen it in Greenwich where my daughter lives. That's
And
a
then
group.
there's the PACE program for low-income people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's also, it may be Greenwich Village's example, where you can go in and you can own your cottage.
Oh, equity communities. I wouldn't say that's a trend. There have always been some equity communities. They're very few.
Yeah. But it seems to me that they're increasing in number right now. That's why I brought it up.
Well, it would be a positive thing.
Okay, I think we're gonna. Okay. I think we've done pretty well with the trends.
Billy?
Yes.
Do you have up there transparency, demands for more transparency from government boards, that the residents.
Residents demanding more transparency from their boards.
As well as a representation.
Okay, let's get that one. Residents demanding more financial transparency and more representation. Does that got it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, we're going to stop now unless there's a burning trend that will go right through your pocket if you don't call it out. All right. So now, we're going to engage in another task. Ruth, we have some help to distribute the dots.
I'm here.
Everybody is going to get 6 little green dots. And I would like you to go up there, there's a lot of stuff there, and put your dots. You can spread them around, or you can put all 6 on a trend like the housing crisis and not being able to sell your home. You could put all 6 on something if you think it's very important. We are not setting priorities. We are simply getting a picture of where people feel are some really important trends that are impacting CCRCs in the USA today, or maybe coming and going to impact them more, like rising healthcare costs. What are some of those trends? As you know, Medicare, nobody said anything about it, but Medicare is gonna go up for some of us. And there's going to be less reimbursement of our skilled nursing facilities. So there are a lot of trends that are going to hit us.
Medicare
Some are already started.
And double dip.
Excuse me? Somebody said something about Medicare?
Should we have Medicare up here?
Does anybody say it?
Well, I thought,
Where's the health care, right? Increasing
Healthcare
health care
costs.
costs, somewhere up here. Here, let's add it to that, put it on as a twig.
Medicare?
That's lower Medicare reimbursement.
so you mean cost shifting from?
Cost shifting.
From government to private, to
Yes.
people?
Cost shifting, put it there, because it's a health care thing with Medicare is gonna shift. Yes. Okay, so you're gonna be getting these dots. Think about it. And don't just put lots of dots on one of the things you called out unless you think that is really the most important thing. Look around, place your dots where you think there are really important trends. Some of these trends may be more important than others. I know it's not a lot of dots, but spread them around and let's see where we come out. So come on up. Take your sticky dots if you have them. Be good if you already have those who already have them while they're going around distributing. Take them and...
Anybody not have dots?
Anybody not have dots? This is called dotmocracy here. So come execute dotmocracy.
Hands to put up his or her dots.
Okay, Al has asked me to explain something about the shift in payment.
transparency.
That is the shift from an A contract, a continuous care, life care contract, like I'm gonna go through all the different stages and they're gonna support me, hopefully. And there's a shift to getting a different kind of contract where the burden for the cost of moving into skilled nursing and assisted living would be on me and my resources. Totally. I got it right?
That's it.
That's it. So that's what it means.
And there's no reason why that has to be at the community level.
Right.
In other words, each community could offer all contracts.
Yeah, we offer all. Yeah. And I think they're, no. Yeah, don't we? Okay. Now, as I said, this is not priority setting. It's just going to be a look for you at what you see, what seems to be important to people here in this room. I did this with our state association several years ago. I've done it in many places, different businesses and whatnot, having people look at the trends that are impacting their organization, their community, their state, whatever. So it's a look. Okay. All right. I am going to, I have glasses somewhere, but I'm going to try. I wrote it with a heavy magic marker. I want to read you just the first part of your mission statement. You probably all know it by heart. What's the most important thing about a purpose, I call it a purpose statement after Peter Drucker. Peter Drucker, when he'd go into organizations, he would ask this question: what's your purpose? And he would see that connected to who's the customer. And then he would say, they sort of look blank, he would say, what's your reason for being? In French, raison d'être. So the purpose statement. So here's your purpose statement. It's in the brochure. I'm not going to read the whole thing because the rest says about how you hope to achieve it. But it has to be owned. You have to say, yes, that's it. That's what we're here to do. NaCCRA exists for the purpose of promoting and supporting the chosen lifestyle of CCRC residents in the U.S. Is that good? Isn't that good and simple?
Yes.
Yes? We own it?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So given this, we have to think about what the implications are. I think it's a good statement. And I think the thing is to look at what the implications are of that statement if you're going to promote and support life care communities. Okay? All right, now let's just get a count. We got a count yet? Okay, tell us here. Joe?
Okay, the issue that garnered the most votes, shifting risk to residents, 31. You want me to go in order?
Yeah.
Okay. I think the second one is expanding volunteerism, community service, social accountability. 18? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, transparency. Yeah, that would make more sense. 29 is the count there. So resident transparency is number 2.
Representation.
And where's representation?
Right here.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that's all part of that.
All part of
Okay,
that is the
okay.
transparency
Yeah.
and the representation on boards.
Yeah.
Cost.
Fee for service, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You didn't mark that
No.
down.
Okay, you got the marker?
Okay.
Increasing operating costs.
I have a marker. Increasing operating
No, I
costs.
don't.
22. Okay, we got a marker. Okay. All right.
Okay, so,
You know, you
Just-
really, you see the one there that has money way up the top? You really need to draw a circle around all those things that are related to it.
Yeah.
And count those. I mean, they're.
Yeah, there are a lot that are similar. That's
all of them.
absolutely
They're all
right,
of
that go
them.
with each other.
yeah, like healthcare reform, that's all about fee for services is a big part of that. Healthcare cost, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
There's a number that he counted them. It's sitting up above it.
Yeah, he's got them.
Yeah, 25 at least.
25.
Give him more
Yeah.
glasses.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of things that go with each other. I mean, it's not an either or, it's a this and this could be twigs off a major branch around the finances.
Yeah, and you know, healthcare cost is a biggie. A real biggie. And closely linked to that is the shift to residents, shifting the risk.
I would like amplification of that.
I'm sorry?
Does anyone else like to hear a little more amplification of
Yes, I
shift
will.
risk?
Yes.
What's
I
that
want to know
mean?
what that means.
Okay. We talked a little bit earlier about the different types of contracts, A, B, C, and D. Contract A is where the provider takes practically all of the risk. You're set for life. If you need to get a higher level of care, assisted living, skilled nursing, it's the same cost, day in and day out.
But you give
Yeah,
them all
that
your
you've
money to
been,
begin with.
that you're paying now as an independent resident. There may be some minor additional costs, but fundamentally, it's the same. Type B starts to break that down, and it shifts some of the risk back to the resident. So instead of being able to stay in assisted living, for example, without any fundamental change in your living costs, changes because contract B says, we'll do that, but we're only going to do it for 60 or 90 days. They put some time limit on it. After that, it's out of your pocket and charged to you at current market rates. You go to Part C, and it shifts more of the risk. It puts greater limitations on what the provider has paid for. And you've got to pay more out of your pocket. And then you're shaking your head.
No, I would define it from the other perspective. So
Okay.
when you're through, I'll talk about that.
Okay, good.
Yeah, no.
Okay, Jack?
I wanted to just respond, do you want me to use it? I just wanted to respond to the person here who suggested that if you had a lesser included service contract, that the price was lower. And that would be true if the pricing were actuarially determined. But if the pricing were actuarially determined, then all communities could offer all contracts and let the individuals decide for themselves what was the appropriate contract for their particular circumstances. What's been happening is that because most prospective residents are unable to discern these nuances of difference in the contracts, by offering a Type C contract, which really leaves more of the financial burden on the residents, that frees up resources that can be used to pay market level incomes to some of the staff members. And so that's been quite attractive for the providers as a direction to move in. The other thing you might remember is that even some of the communities that have all-inclusive programs, suddenly you find new fees introduced for things that previously were included. And that's also a troubling trend.
I'm just going to say something, a suggestion really. I think a lot of people come into CCRCs without fully understanding the contracts they're getting into. Their friends are there, they move in, it's wonderful, everybody's welcome in committee. They don't understand, and time and again. So at the end of the month, our chief financial officer, we have 4 different types of contracts. He said, would that mean I have to come in 4 times and explain them? The last time he explained them all at once, nobody understood the differences. I said, no. We're going to put one contract type in one corner of the room, another in another, etc. The 4 contracts. You're going to have your staff, and they're going to be in each one. And if there's a question they can't answer, then you will go there and answer it. And before anybody comes to this meeting on the 31st, if they can't find their contract, they can go and get it from the office, from the financial office. And they're to read it before they come and have their questions, and then they'll get them answered. But it is really a shame. If you look at our guidebook, and you're free to use that, you know, we have an outline of these contracts, and it's really important that people understand their contract. They're so happy often to get in, you know. I mean, I had to go back and look mine because I suddenly thought, why am I paying this and this? You know, so it's very interesting. How are we doing with the count? You want to?
Oh, we still have a issue on contracts.
Okay.
I would just say the minimal coverage contract, in a sense, what they're providing you is accommodations for independent living and any additional health care expense that you incur because you have to go to a different level of care, that's out of your pocket. And then, you know, you're covered by Medicare. You may have supplemental coverage under a pension plan. You may have some long-term disability coverage. Situation varies from one resident to another. I'll also add, and I'm frankly not certain on this, but I think that if you come into a community and you're under say a Type A contract, generally speaking, those contracts, the provider is on the hook for that. There may be an exception where there's a provision in the contract that lets them out, but from my experience, I've never seen one like that. The other thing to keep in mind, for a new resident coming into the community, the more coverage you have, Type A, the higher entry fee you're going to pay, and chances are you're going to pay a higher monthly
Not in every
service.
case.
Although that's true. Not in every case. So that's something else to keep in mind. In some communities, there's practically no entry fee, but you're on the hook for covering your health care costs. Now, you had a comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well,
Wait a minute, where do we get the mic to you?
Okay.
Okay, you got it.
I'm in a peculiar position. This is my 20th year in a CCRC. My first 10 years I spent in California. And if you are aware, California was very, very active. In fact, we were involved in getting NaCCRA started. So I go back that far. And in California, I lived in an upscale, not a fee-for-service, but my husband and I were in the healthcare business, and we did develop a full Type A program in affiliation with the Presbyterian Church in Los Gatos, California. We looked at that service and said, well, that's very nice, but I'm the kind who can't stand to give them control. So we were looking for other kinds of programs. And I would agree with you that most people aren't educated. They don't ask. They don't know the difference between accreditation, certification. They don't understand all of this. They don't understand the difference between give them all their money, a B or a C, which is fee for service. Now, in the program that I was in California, in order to join that program, we all had to pass long-term care insurance. We had to have it. So their way of sharing the costs with us was that we had to qualify. And if you didn't qualify, then you had to have that much more money. But when I came from California, in fact, we helped to write a law every year in California. Those of you who have followed CalCRA know that, to benefit seniors. And in terms of transparency and board membership, we in California had 2 board members on our program. One selected by the resident, the other, selected by the board, the other elected by the residents. So think about that as you're looking at how things develop. Then with the fee-for-service program, which I came to in Green Spring, my costs were really much improved out of pocket monthly. But I had long-term care insurance, I had other kinds of things. But I also knew that I had control of my finances, and for me that was important. Now I'm just saying that in terms of to have all of you examine what kind of a program are you in, and what is it that drew you to this program, and do you know where your safety net is, and why can't we get more people to be active so that they can fight for seniors? That's the end of my lecture.
Good. Okay. Good. Thank you very much.
Joe, one of the things you didn't mention, and it is active in Virginia, is that some of the CCRCs that are in the A plan are able to get a tax deduction from the IRS.
Yes.
For medical expenses. Yeah. And I know one year, and it's all of the fees, you apply this percentage, and one year it was 64%. So my clients that bought in that year had a huge tax deduction.
But it could change.
That's a good point. At Seabury, about a third of entry fees and a third of your monthly fees are tax deductible. Good point. Thank you. And thank you,
Billy,
for your input.
Billy, one more item.
I should say this, I'm legally blind,
okay,
so I can't see, it's hard for me to see when hands go up. Where's the voice coming from?
Over here.
Where's here? Oh, it's Al, right?
Yeah, I want to point out that it wasn't mentioned, and I think people should make sure they know about it. If you're in a non-for-profit, the federal government says that at no fault of your own, if you deplete all your funds and you've been in the non-profit, they will have to keep you on board free.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yes.
You sure?
Positive.
Yes.
Yep.
And in addition, the state of Colorado, when you go for independent living and you've depleted your funds into, say, healthcare,
yeah,
Medicaid will take over.
Yes, that's true.
So
somewhat.
We have some protection.
Yeah, we have some, hopefully.
Providing you don't spend your money in Las Vegas.
Yeah, we've had...
Can you repeat that statement about getting thrown out?
Repeat the statement of getting thrown out?
Yeah, what did you say about leaving?
Yeah, if you are in a legitimate 501(c)(3), right, and you've been there, you paid your way in, and you deplete your funds through no fault of your own. Right. Now that's open for interpretation, but they have to keep you on free.
Right. Really?
That's right.
What's the definition of depletion of funds?
Oh, that's the questionable thing,
well,
right?
Medicaid has a pretty good, our establishment uses Medicaid. If you qualified for Medicaid, they would say you're okay for depletion of funds.
Okay, I just want to make a couple of statements here in kind of closing this and giving us a break. I think that many of these issues are on the minds of people like me in the hinterlands, and look to NACCRA around some of these issues. The housing issue for us has been huge. The fact that you can't move in, a lot of people can't move in without selling their home. We have something called Seabury, kind of without walls. That's helped the pipeline a little, although it's cost a lot of money to maintain it. I hope this year it'll break even, we don't know. But I just think, you know, I called a friend of mine in California the other day who's living in a CCRC in Davis, and he said one of the things that he's very concerned about is representation on the decision-making board, which is a provider company. And he feels that there's no voice of the customer there. But these things are true. We happen to have it where I live. Another place down the road has it, but a lot of communities do not have the voice of the customer on their decision-making boards. I'm not saying with the management that's hired, but on their decision-making boards. So there are issues out there for us that I think we could be greatly helped by what NACCRA does and educates us on and tells us about and says, well, this state is doing this, have you tried that? Because there are things within states that differ. Joe and I are going to do a few things here, talking about strategy, etc. And before we do that, I just want to put down something here in terms of organizations. I hope you can read this, so because since I'm not very well cited. Okay. Here are the things that are happening in the external environment that are impacting your purpose. I think the most important thing, and again, I've been a student, taught some of this, and in my experience, it's very important to know what business you're in. And you may be in several businesses, of course, if you're a big conglomerate. But for each division, what business are we in? Who's our customer? These things are very important. But this follows with questions I then look at. Structure. The other thing I would look at is what I would call financial resources. Okay, hope you can read my writing. All right, the other thing I would look at, going to get Ruth to help me here, administrative support. So here's the questions I ask. Are you structured, really? Let's look at your structure. Are you structured in the right way to accomplish your purpose? Do you have the financial resources to support your purpose? Can you get them? Do you have them? What do you need to do? There's financial resources to support your purpose. Do you have the administrative support you need? You know, and the people resources. Do you have the right people on the right tasks, doing the right things? What kind of people resources? Now, sometimes those people resources in a organization that uses volunteers, sometimes those are split. There are some staff people that do certain work, but the volunteers do other work, and you have the right volunteers supporting that. So those are important questions to ask. There's another funny question I ask. It's different in an organization where people are rewarded. But pay systems and reward and recognition systems in a not-for-profit, in a voluntary organization, are very important. People need to be recognized. It's not, we pay you, but you need to be recognized as people who make contributions, because rewards often depend, and recognition may be not quite what they need to be to support what you need. I've been amazed sometimes, years ago doing some consulting with an insurance firm, that one of the people who probably did the best job was the person who tracked what was happening in the stock market and then reported to the a manager who invested the money. But he was very important, and the rules in the organization didn't allow him to have a bookcase, for example, until you were a higher level and you got a corner window and a plant and stuff like that. So some of these little things, even in a voluntary system, in a hospital system where you have volunteers, are very important things to look at how you're rewarding and recognizing people. So that's just a part of this. Yeah, just put rewards and recognition. Administrative support, structure, financial resources. So in order to accomplish your purpose, you need to ask yourself some questions around these areas. This isn't exclusive. You also need good communication systems. You need to stay in touch with your customer, your suppliers, whatever. Those are part of the administrative system. I like a term coordinating mechanisms, things that help coordinate people and people with other people. Those are very important. So that's the kind of things when I go in, look at an organization, some of the questions I ask myself. So I think the first thing, as we said today, is to get this clear. And it is clear in your mission statement. It is clear in that mission statement. And I think for people out there who you want to bring in as members to support you, it's very important what you're doing and how you're doing it and how you're helping those people and letting them know you're there to help and support them and what you're doing about it. Okay, I'm going to turn this over to Joe, who's going to talk some more, particularly about, I think, this area. Somehow I've ended up with the top of the marker and not the bottom, but you have it. Good, good. Okay, Joe, you're on.
Thank you very much, Billy. For those who do not know me, my name is Joe Walton. I'm a resident of Connecticut, part of the same community that, is this working?
Yeah. A little better.
This will work better. Billy and I live in the same community, Seabury, Connecticut. I'm a native of Iowa, Clinton, Iowa. Gateway to the Corn State, home of Bluebirds and Bell, world's largest manufacturers of fly swatters. My business background is marketing in the health insurance industry. I've been a resident of Seabury for 9 years. I've been a voting member of its governing board for 6 of those 9 years. I'll just add one more note about Seabury. It has a Seabury at Home component. It was the first one in Connecticut and the first of, I understand, 11 in the United States. So, so much for my background. I just want to say a few words that relate to structure and strategic planning and its importance. Since its beginning, NaCCRA has made notable progress in terms of membership outreach, credibility with allied organizations, namely Leading Age. It's broadened its volunteer leadership, and independently, NaCCRA has achieved some public policy victories. The imputed interest battle is one that comes to mind. We're doing great, but we don't want to rest on our laurels. We want to move to a higher level. We are at a crossroads, so to speak. In our current structure as it exists today is at a plateau. And we want to get beyond that and to develop the resources to better serve our membership in all categories. The way that we need to do that is to recognize first that the arena has changed. What was going on in the world 10 years ago is quite different than it is today and changing rapidly. With respect to public policy matters, it's highly populated. There's a lot of provider organizations out there. And while Leading Age is a major association for group effort, there are more than a dozen groups that are shaping the outcomes with senior housing legislation today. In addition, there are many well-established and funded organizations representing the interest of seniors, some with an extremely large membership to generate grassroots action when it's needed. What do we need to do? To take us to the next level, to become an organization that better serves our members effectively in this current environment, we need to undertake an analysis of our current structure and implement appropriate changes. Our mission, our organization, and governance makeup and means for funding our enterprise must be included in this initiative. On completion of this task, we must create a strategic plan that provides direction for our membership and our board and the day-to-day decisions that we make. You're all part of that process here today by identifying the trends and directions that are going on in the industry as you see them. What you are doing here today is to help us shape that strategic plan to better serve your interest. The bottom line here is that much work has to be done to successfully take NaCCRA to a higher level. To guide this effort, we must create a 3 to 5 year strategic plan that integrates annual operating goals and objectives. As part of this undertaking, we need to reassess our organization, mission, and purpose, review our governing structure, and as I said, redefine or establish new bylaws and establish a workable budget plan. And some of this work is already in progress. At our board meeting last night, we made some steps forward, and again, it's the primary focus of this meeting here today. And I thank you for all coming and participating and to help us with this big task. Thank you very much. Billy?
So there you have it. So we're trying to do these things of taking our purpose, what we're in business to do, and look at the resources, skills, structures, support necessary, as Joe said, to take it to the next level. Honestly, Ruth, where's Ruth? I'm done. I'm done. So you take over. I know you have a lot of crowded here in the schedule.
Okay.
You know,
Just 1 minute.
All right.
I want to thank,
Let's all thank, I want to thank George and Jean, who were the scribes, who helped capture all that.
And we're going to try to reproduce this somehow so that everyone will have a copy, and you'll see where the import is and the trends that there are, and then we're going to work together to make it all happen. You know, as somebody said, we're thinking outside of the box because we've always done it this way does not necessarily make it the best way. So we all have to kind of gear our thinking around how can we manage, because there are other groups that are in competition who are really moving forward with great vigor, but we need to do the same thing. So we're going to just try to pull this all together, and we've got a plan, and we're going to make it work with your help. And I guess one of the important parts is people say, why should I join NaCCRA? What is it in for me? What's it mean for me? And so this is part of what we're trying to do here today. Why is this organization so important to so many people? And how are we going to extend it? You know, primarily we're over on the West Coast, we're on the East Coast, but there's not much in the middle, and it's very important that we extend ourselves out. Al from Colorado is making great inroads in Colorado, but we still have other states. So these are part of the plan, and we're going to make it work. And we thank you all for listening and for being with us as we proceed. And so I'm gonna just take 1 second to get over here. Yes, Bob?
I think we need to give the hand applause to Billy. I think she did a wonderful job.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much.
Talk about one thing and then focus on the other one.
Do you need
Do I need a mic?
Yes.
Okay.
Where, oh, there he is.
Okay, grab
Here's
me
our
a mic.
man.
What I'd like to do is to ask you to fill in so we get enough, we don't have so much spread out in the room. Could those of you join another table where you're 2 or 3 people? Could you join another table where you're 2 or 3 people, or come in? Come join you. Come join it. You need
Glenn,
community
hey,
here.
Glenn, we need you to be taking a seat and joining in the talk too.
So join a table here, nice people.
Try to get a table where there's members. Yeah.
May I fit in between you two
Okay.
handsome men?
NaCCRA members, whatever, people from anywhere, everywhere, meet some of the other folks. Okay, good. Have a seat, join in.
Are we all, how many tables have we?
So fill in.
Four tables.
She told me we should have 4 tables, so let's have 4 tables. Do you mind? You could leave your stuff there and just join another table and come back
Jack,
for it.
I
when you need
read
it,
almost
okay?
all that stuff last night, but no comments yet.
No, it
All I
doesn't
did
need,
was
you don't
read.
need to.
Let me just put this to the side so we can put somebody in there.
Oh dear, okay. All right, let me just.
Okay, let me fill you in on what I listened to, because I was a visitor at the board meeting. Well, I asked a couple of questions occasionally. I tried hard not to give an opinion. But there was an interesting issue, and I understand, because I know Joe and see him very often on different issues. The tension when you're the treasurer and you have to pay the bills and there isn't money to pay them. There are individuals who are giving money, you know, donating money, but you really want to know that financially this organization is going to be sustainable. So there's always the question of, do you raise dues? But there was another counter argument, which is valid too. So I don't see this as necessarily an either or, but a this and. We're not going to talk about dues right now, but the other side was increasing membership. Increasing membership in NaCCRA. Individual membership, state association, but increasing membership in NaCCRA. But this morning, someone said to me, I want to go back to my community and tell them why we should be part of NaCCRA. Why people should join NaCCRA, because NaCCRA is going to do some things and help us. We did the trends. So I want you first, as individuals, just to quickly jot down some ideas you have about what you might say to people NaCCRA is going to be working on. What are some of the issues, some of the trends that you think NaCCRA should start to address? I remember some of the trends. There were some issues around health care. There were issues around passing on the risk to the individual participant in a CCRC, passing more of that risk on. There were also issues about participation, having more participation, having more transparency, things like that. Participation meaning resident participation in the decision making. So there were quite a few things that came out of those trends and things that may be workable. And you may have others. So just take a minute and jot down 1 or 2. I'll give you just, I hope you write fast, a few seconds to jot those down. And then I'm going to ask you to share them at the table. And maybe the table can pick 2 or 3 that sound good, and I'll ask for a report. So we'll have a report from each table. So it was easy for me to have the 4 tables. Anybody need paper, pen?
No,
Raise your hand.
Go back and
Okay.
get mine.
So jot down, going back to my community, what should I say? What are the things you think we should be working on?
Well, I could tell you.
Don't tell me yet. I don't want to hear
No,
yet.
I'm talking to these people. I'm not.
Oh,
talking
no, well, when you get your ideas down and let everybody have a chance to think about it, and then we'll let you do that. You can tell your table. Just take a minute to give people a time to jot things down. Is that okay with you?
I guess so.
Okay, thanks.
What if your community is perfect?
What?
What if your community is perfect?
That's fine. So we could send you to someplace that isn't. What would you tell them? Why would you tell them they should join NaCCRA? What is NaCCRA working on that will be meaningful to them?
We had, the gentleman had a question?
Yes.
No. Oh, all right.
Tell Larry.
What's your question?
Well, what were you going to say?
No question. Okay. Oh, just dialogue. Okay. Take a minute and then I'll let you dialogue.
In North Carolina,
Okay.
Wait
a minute.
Give us a minute.
Give them a minute.
He asked me a question.
Oh, okay.
Are we allowed to talk or not?
Yes, you can talk to one
I just
another.
want to make sure you have a chance to jot down the ideas first.
Well, I think we're done with that.
Okay,
Were you
then
allowed?
talk. Then
Do you want us to have a reporter from each table?
Yes, I will ask for a report from each table.
So we should select a reporter?
Select a reporter.
Okay.
And then
No, I think Barbara would be good.
We're going to all pass the buck around the table.
Have a recorder who I'll ask to report back. So if you're ready, you can have the discussion.
Yeah, Barbara, you be
If you're
the...
ready, you can have the
Then I won't
discussion.
have to contribute anything to it. It's just strength together.
Our North Carolina organization had to choose between increasing dues and increasing membership in order to balance the budget. And we chose increasing membership. We felt increasing dues was a dead end and that would actually decrease our membership. So members of our executive board are going
I'm
around
asking what the problem is.
to
What are you going to go back and tell that
different
NaCCRA should be working on?
CCRCs and
Even if
talking
we're not yet,
about
but we will be.
our
What are you going to do?
organization, what it means, and why people should be members. I'm due to go to.
Well, I think it has to be connected. I have to
Having
go
it
back
in
and say to my
Laurels
community,
next
here's something that
month,
NaCCRA is
and I will
going to be
probably
working
pitch
on
both
that will be good for you.
the CCCR of North Carolina and NaCCRA as important and talk about some of the things that they are doing, like this financial soundness study that we're going to take on. There's more noise in North Carolina about bed taxes starting up. We've got to keep that under control. We've got educational things going on, both at NaCCRA and NaCCRA U and in North Carolina. Those are the kind of things I will pitch to them. And the fact, one of the things Steve is coming down to North Carolina to talk to us next October as well, just like he did today, and I'll probably invite people to come listen to that as well. So those are the kinds of things I'm doing.
And Betty made the point that one of the strengths of NaCCRA is the sharing of concerns and educational information and so on. But the problem that we seem to face, at least with VACRA, and as a result NaCCRA, is being invited to or getting an invitation to a local community to make a presentation. You've just said, Walt, that you're going to be doing this, but during my 2 years as president of VACRA, I had turn down after turn down when I contacted communities saying that I would like to come there and talk about VACRA and NaCCRA, or to send a team in to introduce the subject. If we're going to grow membership, we need to be able to get in and speak to the people we wish to recruit. How do we do that? CEOs who are objecting to we're well aware of that in Virginia.
We have that, but we would not have we would not be able to invite somebody in and speak to the community. The CEO would not allow us.
Are we talking to the issue that was raised? The issue, as I understood it, was what's the value to membership?
Right.
Strength.
So what I'm hearing is that our strong preference would be to increase membership rather than increase dues. Okay, so that's, we could certainly report that we think we should increase membership rather than increase dues. The second, I think, is we want the provider mentality to be one of doing things with residents rather than for residents, and NaCCRA advocates for that. And I think that's that's a positive benefit that many people would see as positive. Not everyone. Some people like the provider to do things for them, but they may like that but want to think that they're being done with them, and so that's an appearance thing. And the third thing that I think NaCCRA is working for, not the third thing on this list, I had the membership being number one. The third thing on this list was that NaCCRA would like to make the communal living lifestyle value of the CCRC the option of first choice for people contemplating retirement, so that this is what they think of first. They don't think of Del Webb, they think of CCRC living. If we can help the providers to structure the product so that it becomes so attractive that it's first choice, and there are ways of doing that. These are not simple undertakings, but that would be, I think we're looking for visionary statements.
Yeah, but they need to be concrete rather than just sort of pie on the wall.
Well, I'll make it concrete if you want, but I'm not the CEO of a place, so I mean, I could do it. I think what Glenn's doing, reaching out to the active living community and wrapping it with a continuing care option, in effect brings them into the CCRC lifestyle and get you 90% of the way home. But that's those are those.
What did NaCCRA have to do with that?
What?
What did NaCCRA have to do with that?
How is that going
well,
to
you took my statement and turned it back against it, and I'll withdraw it then, and I'll say we should, let me withdraw it by reversing it. CCRC living should be the last choice for people that they only turn to when they're desperate because they have no alternative. That would be the opposite statement. Is that what you're, I don't think that's what you want to say.
That's not what
So, okay.
I have a couple of thoughts. One is NaCCRA is made up of residents of continuing care resident associations.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things that we all face right now, and we're all in the same boat, is financial viability. So what are the major issues? And quality of life. And I think part of what you were getting to is quality of life. Why should we be here? What's the benefits? And that's one thing he spoke about. So kind of what I'm looking at, if NaCCRA is going to be viable, is one, you need membership growth, but if you're going to have membership growth, you need to focus on 2 or 3 or 4 major issues and be the experts so people understand why you're even in existence. Most of the time right now, people in CCRCs don't even know what you do. They don't know what you advocate, they don't know where you're going, they don't know. Why should anybody care if they're a member of a CCRC and a member of NaCCRA or not? So I think, number one, you need to look at how can we help and focus on and speak on how we can ensure quality of life and financial viability of the CCRCs. How can you residents do that? And second of all, what are the 2 or 3 or 4 issues that you guys can become experts on to feed information and testimony on to the CCRC's industry?
Yeah, I think we're well down the road toward doing exactly that. But listening to George, and I didn't mean to turn it back on you. What you're saying is, I'm from Missouri. Show me. And so the work that we've been doing.
It might help. For a long time in North Carolina, we had an adversarial relationship with Leading Age, or the NaCCRA, which was his predecessor, until Tom Aiken came in, and he had been a former CEO of CCRC in Kansas, so he had that experience with dealing with residents, and he was much more amenable to our interests. We sold him on the basis that, you know, if he had a problem with the legislature, by working in coordination with us, we could provide him with a lot of voters ready to write letters. And struck a bell. So right now, our cooperation is very strong. The level of cooperation is very strong. And I think through leading age, perhaps you can get the CEOs of these CCRCs to be more amenable to inviting you in, even if the residents' associations don't want to.
So, you know, you've got to work with the people. The membership growth, it's not just a matter of getting into these communities, it's creating a presence. AARP doesn't come out and make presentations in our CCRCs, and yet I'd be willing to bet that there are more of our residents who are members of AARP than are residents of either the local state association or
but they can do advertising that we can't.
But they didn't when they began.
But it's like being a member of a labor union. You do it to defend your interests. And I think one of the things that got NaCCRA going in Virginia was the bed tax threat. Without that, I don't know that we would have grown all that much.
Right.
That's going to recur. It's recurring.
It may, but I mean, you have to other things too.
In Virginia, it will take a change of the state code to enact a provider tax. So we are being told repeatedly that that's a dead issue in our state. The tax may be created in some other way, but it won't be called a provider tax. So when that occurred, we had no purpose until this problem at the Glebe came along. And now we're getting attention again. But the problem over the whole existence of NaCCRA, and therefore NaCCRA, in Virginia, has been lack of access to communities. And it's principally because Van Ha has stood against us. That's the leading age arm in Virginia. I don't mean to say that all chief executive officers or executive directors of communities are opposed to NaCCRA, but a significant number of them are. And so the mechanism for getting in is what concerns me. How do you make friends with the people in a community that's 300 miles away and get inroads into, get an invitation to come and even present the concept of your organization?
So that was very frustrating for you.
Of course it was frustrating.
And that's a
How about
issue.
5 more minutes of discussion, and then I'll hear from the tables what your thinking is.
So
5 more minutes of discussion.
I think on the provider thing, you have to.
Each would do that from his point of view. Go back into some of these.
Does NaCCRA have a mission and vision statement?
Yes. We wrote it under my administration. They didn't have one up to that point.
Does NaCCRA?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And it has to do with that second thing I said, which is to extend the benefits of CCRC living. That's what we're seeking to do.
Sometimes it takes a change in administration.
So do you have your list?
And you should be.
You've got the list.
No, you're the reporter.
Okay, you need to tell this person
Unless you want me to give that,
you just joined.
unless you want to use my list, but what do you have for you? Do you want to do the report?
Could you let Judy know what you have on your list so far? Because she raised some of this question when she goes back to her community. What do you have on your list that you could give her a quick briefing on?
Well, first thing we decided was that it's better to go for memberships than to increase dues.
Okay. Good. And then what would you do to do that?
We would go out and advertise NaCCRA to as many CCRCs as we can. The next issue was how do we get into those CCRCs, and I'm sort of stumbling on that one.
So when you said advertise, you said preach.
I mean,
everything.
Preach. Like Bob Nicholson is going to visit from Washington. He's going down to Oregon to talk to groups of CCRCs, convince them to join us.
He means a public relations campaign.
Yep.
Isn't that
And
the
I'm not
thing
a
you're
public
supposed to
relations
do
type.
for us, Judy? That's what I'm trying to learn.
I think NaCCRA and all the states need to find some way to educate and lobby all the providers.
But we can't lobby.
Educate.
Educate.
Okay.
Yep.
Same thing, but a different color.
Yes.
On what is the benefit of the residents involved. And there's 100 ways to do that. But I think that's needs to be a major focus. We're not enemies. We're all in the same boat.
Yeah, that's it.
Glenn, would you and perhaps some other executive directors be willing, I mean, in your opinion, would executive directors who are friendly with residents be willing to help us in this endeavor? In the past, we haven't found any who were willing to, and actually, I didn't ask you when I was the president.
I think it's a little different.
But that, having a nucleus of providers and residents to start.
If you want the providers to listen to residents, the residents have to have something to say that's worth listening to.
Let me back up a little bit. One of the things that I have found, because I'm old enough to have found this out, is I don't always know. I've been doing this for 35 years, 37 years. I don't always know what the residents think. And you residents don't always know what the providers think. Indeed.
We don't always know what the residents think either.
So one of the things of getting together with a group of providers, even if it's the state association folks in some way or other, is what value are you to them? What do they need you for? What can you provide to them? What are their issues that you can tap into to help support, help change, help modify, or whatever you want to do? But one of the reasons I sit every month in front of the residents, because they tell me things that I wouldn't otherwise know.
Well, I agree with, now in California, I've volunteered for everything in aging services that they would have me for, and I'm now on the Public Policy Committee, and I've been working to sort of develop some model laws that might serve a basis for some reform here, and I wanted to be able to talk them through with a provider. And so I found a provider CEO, and I drove, actually it was 300 miles. I drove 300 miles to meet with him and spent the day going over this and did it, and because we don't want to do something that isn't well thought out. So I think that's exactly what you're talking about. And that led, he said, he asked if I would explain what the need for actuaries is. So that led me to prepare a video on that. So there is merit in that, but I think there are very few residents who are functioning on that level. I think I'm the only one in the country who's a certified aging services professional because I took those exams.
And let me just make this so we do this efficiently. So table 1 is going to report. If you have something, say this is going to be table 2 right back there. If you have something that table 1 has already mentioned, just say we reinforce what they've said and here's something additional we have to add. Okay? So let's start with table 1. Who's doing the reporting? You are up and at it.
We had a variety of, and I'll just quickly mention 2 of them. One was these are benefits that NaCCRA could help this community. One was greater information on the advantages and disadvantages of diverse types of contracts.
Okay.
The second one was one that has been discussed here some, and I know, and by that I mean discussed here at Westminster, but not yet implemented, is greater information on providing services beyond the walls of Westminster, our home community here, therapy to our neighbors and various services that Westminster could provide, benefit the community, and make a little money for Westminster.
So, okay, got it. All right. All right, now we're going to have this table here. Table 2. Who's going to do the reporting?
Okay, go ahead. Well, I really like that list. That's great.
Okay.
We talked about, let's see, resident solidarity. the fact that the providers have the solidarity that they get in leading age, and we need the same sort of solidarity in NACCRA eventually.
Okay, solidarity in NACCRA. What else?
Yeah, the equivalent of leading age of the providers. Right. We need an equivalent. Let's see. I'm not sure that what, the other things we have don't overlap with.
Go ahead, tell us what they are.
Okay, well, we're the only network of residents.
Okay.
So if you want to join the network,
yeah,
the national network, this is the thing to do. We put down just general information exchange, but I like the specific thing of exchanging information on contracts. That's really a great idea.
Okay, all right.
And getting the solidarity to secure enforcement of laws, but also to have second looks at certain regulations that come down the pike that are not helpful.
And could impact the CCRCs and the residents.
Oh, yeah, right.
Okay.
Do impact regulations that are being followed that
right. So
really need a second look.
So regulatory update and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay, any other thing?
That's it.
All right, so now we'll go to this table. And then we'll come to you, you're last but not least. Okay?
We mostly focused on how we could gain access to CCRCs in any given state so that it would become possible to promote the state organization as well as NACCRA. And using this approach as a tool to increasing membership. We touched on some of the things said previously, and also discussed to some extent how issues that surface can be shared between providers and residents to solve the issue and to bring, well, first of all, to bring it out in the open, because very often residents don't know what's facing management and management doesn't know what the current concerns of residents are. So that by bringing issues into the open, they could be shared, involve people, and as they become involved, they would be more interested in joining a group that would network, as was mentioned by table number 2.
Good.
And that we could focus more adequately on quality of life issues and financial security as focuses to draw people into the state as well as the national organization.
Okay, great. Now we'll go to the table back there.
At this table, to summarize, it was felt that NACCRA must do more than it is doing now to provide the communities with information on what NACCRA is doing, has done, and intends to do to address all of those kinds of issues that are on the board. In the absence of communicating all of that information and having substantive information to communicate, it's going to be difficult to increase membership.
Okay. Anything else to add?
Have I just stated?
I think someone on the board
Oh, yes, an additional proposal was made is that on leading age, there should be a representative from NACCRA on their board.
I was going to ask that, but not being a member, I was a little hesitant.
Yeah, one of the members at our table suggested that.
The voice of the customer could be on the
yes, exactly.
member, maybe 2 of them or 3 of them.
Right.
Something to talk to them about. Okay, anything else now that you don't feel got said here that's important? Anybody have anything to add?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, let's go. Who has one thing to add?
All right, I have a question for you, and that is this session being recorded at all?
Yes.
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 And are we going to be able to get copies of the information that's been circulated and said?
Yes, within the
I
limits.
think that would be very helpful because, you know, some of us don't take very good notes.
Okay, wait a minute. Ruth has been taking notes and she's going to read them back to you. Will that help?
Yeah.
Anything else? I don't see hands very well. Let's go here.
Yeah.
Quick, short.
I think Joe's got the complete meeting. The question is, how can we?
Okay, let's talk about that later, because I think it's an important issue, Joe. Somebody got the complete meeting. Okay, any other comments?
Yeah. Do you have a microphone?
I'm sorry, take it.
Just real quick on the mic. I've sat on the boards of the state associations, the VANHA not-for-profit groups. I sat on one in Connecticut, I sat on one in Illinois, and one in Washington State over the years. One of the things that is, there's a disconnect between sometimes what the state organizations and probably leading age interpret as in the best interest of the organizations and the states and residents, and what residents think. Mm-hmm. And what point that we made here is you all need to get together with the state organizations and leading age, and when there's an issue on the table, talk about it before you stand in front of legislators and argue or give a point of view, because what I found is most of the time that is a misperception or a lack of understanding of all the issues. Why you folks, why residents and organizations are on different sides of the fence. You're all after the same thing, but you don't all understand the same thing.
I think that was said here around meeting with the providers was said. Thank you, though, it's a good point. Okay, we're done. Ruth? Anybody else? Okay, Ruth?
Here I am.
Go ahead.
All right, this is as quickly as I could. I do not take shorthand. So, but this is our table talk. At table 1, the benefit of NaCCRA, the greater information on diverse kinds of contracts is needed. Greater information is needed on providing services beyond the community. So in essence, extending yourselves out into the community and having the community extend itself into the community, which is what happens so beautifully here with all the work that is done with Rotary and not-for-profit organizations. So that was very extending yourselves out and then publishing, pat ourselves on the back a little bit. Also, we have to do something to have resident solidarity in NaCCRA. There needs to be some kind of a network of residents, and we could maybe perhaps through NaCCRA or through the website, get in some sort of a national network so we can exchange information. There needs to be solidarity to secure information, enforcement of laws, and I know that there's different. If there are 50 states in the union, there are 50 ways that CCRCs are regulated in the different states. Some come under insurance, Department of Insurance, some under social services. So understanding of how we all come together, and then how to go about the how-tos of in securing the enforcement of laws. And then knowledge of regulations and keeping us all updated on regulations. And this is table number 3. And NaCCRA needs to do more to provide information on what we do, what we have done, what we are doing, and what we can do in the future. And communication is absolutely essential in order to increase membership. If we're going to increase membership, we need to make ourselves known, and we have to also extend ourselves out into the states, the states that are in the mid part of the country. And perhaps there's a way to, and I know that you all were talking about the possibility of representation of NaCCRA on the leading age board, and there was, when it was ASA, Marlene and Charlie were both on the congregation, was it the Congress?
House of Delegates.
The House of Delegates, which was...
Charlie is now on the Policy Council.
And Charlie, now, when ASA went out of business and became leading age, it changed from the policy, what was it now called?
It's not called the policy.
Called the Policy Congress, and that does meet before every leading age meeting, and they're very, very active. So we do have representation, and I know Charlie is anxious with his health to foster some new blood on there, so we will be represented on leading age. And then the last table, not last but not least, that we talked about the possibility of increase in membership, and that focus should be on the increasing membership, not on raising dues. We'll have to work back to the bylaws and work on that, but the big issue is getting more members, more committed members, and work that, how to break into CCRCs within the states, within our own states, and also within the states in the center part of the country where I know there are many CCRCs and they haven't ever heard of us. So we have to do an informational network of some sort. How to gain access to any CCRCs, and that's really just so we can sell ourselves. How issues that surface that in management, that we need to work with management. The management are going to be urged to work with the residents. Residents work and listen to the management. And then also the importance of technology in using. So NaCCRA U is very vital, educational tool. Also our website, and that is being kept up to date so you can get all the latest information. There are many benefits, and all we really need to have is also there was a greater emphasis on the education of our members and where we're going and how we hope to get there. So that's in a nutshell what you all said in a nutshell.
Good.
And I thank you so much. Anything else, any comment, other? Yes, ma'am.
I think
Wait a minute, let's get her the mic.
Here.
Thank you, Paul. I think it's wonderful to increase membership as a way of growing NaCCRA. But I'm also concerned that if we don't raise dues a little bit, the membership will outstrip our income. And I'll use myself for an example. I joined NaCCRA in 2004, paid lifetime dues of $150, and I bet every one of those $150 has already been spent in just the few years that I've been a NaCCRA member. That means that from now on, unless I make a voluntary contribution, I won't be paying my way as a member. So we need to find some other revenue sources than just dues, including, dues being the annual and lifetime memberships. It's not going to sustain us.
I just want to say two things quickly. First, we have to be competitive with other organizations, and we certainly have to have our dues be competitive with AARP. If we increase our dues significantly above those of AARP, our residents say, you're not doing much for us and we're paying more for it, and so why would we do it? And I think we can. I think there are creative things that we can begin to do using new technology to extend the membership, and that's a way to go. But I didn't want us to depart here without thanking Ruth for her leadership. It's noon, and we're coming up on the close of this, and Ruth has just poured her heart into this meeting. It's such a meaningful thing to sit here and to be able to revel in the sunshine that radiates from your presence. So I just want to thank you for that.